Here we are, episode 4 with Kurt McDonald and Connor Harvey. Both of them are World Cup mechanics and have also raced on the World Cup scene. They've got heaps of knowledge on what's going on behind the scenes, so we talk extensively about Leogang Round 1, why we've picked our fantasy league teams for the season, and we wrap up with a couple of stories from Kurt and Connor about mechanic on the World Cup circuit. I really enjoyed recording this. Hope you enjoyed too. There we are. We're up to episode number 4. We've got Connor Harvey and Kurt McDonald. They're two mechanics and also World Cup racers, I think.
Yeah.
Kurt's got one under his belt.
Swung a leg at it.
Swung a leg. And Connor, what have you got? A couple of seasons?
I did one season, yeah.
You got
One
a
season racing, and I've done 3 mechanicking, yeah.
And then Kurt, you won, what, you say 6 years mechanicking?
I did 5 seasons on the World Cup. Yeah.
Sick. But yeah, we'll start off, I guess, just getting everyone's insights into the Leogang World Cup, which is going on this weekend. And like practice has been underway, and they've just done the time training. Yeah, let's just talk some turkey on mountain bike world going into round number 1.
Oh, just pissing rain again. Well, pissed rain again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Repeat of last year, really.
It doesn't look as bad though, I don't think, because it's not as.
I think
it doesn't look.
I think it looks worse because it's that peanut butter mud. Whereas, like, I remember when Eddie came back from last season and he gave us a bit of a rundown on it, and he said all the practice at Worlds last year was mint because it was raining. It was pissing rain every day, and you could ride the river, and it actually had some rolling speed and you know, a bit of like prediction. Whereas race day it stopped raining and it went to peanut butter, and the race runs were just carnage because it was that tacky, real heinous, you know, peanut butter mud, and it looks like it's that right now.
Looks like it was sticking in people's tyres a lot worse than last year, whereas at least
true.
it looks like they've still got that tyre clearance.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean it looks much easier.
I guess there's all the ruts from last year already there. You know, in a sense, it wouldn't take much to dig them back out, so they probably got ripped up pretty quickly. But yeah, it's looking pretty spicy.
Yeah, how long do you reckon that section is? Like,
I don't know what it would be time-wise. I can't imagine it must be more than, would you reckon 30 seconds, 40 seconds probably?
I can't even imagine whereabouts it is on the hill, to be honest.
Straight up the wall rides, hook a left.
Oh, yep, Roger, yeah.
And then down there, and then it just comes out sort of where the steps, this sort of step section was, into the right hand.
Yeah,
right-handers.
I'd say in the dry it'll be 40 seconds worth of track.
and it's close to the bottom of the hill, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you had those fast wall rides, and it cuts out the second one.
Yeah, first wall ride, then you pretty much go straight, I think.
Wow.
But it's such a deciding factor, it seems to be, of that race.
Well,
To there, or is there like quite
there.
niggly bits up from that?
I reckon probably the key bit for that track is actually before the motorway. You would have seen like the sort of stump section in the open,
Yeah.
and like basically if you can carry good speed onto the motorway, then you're going to have good average speed the whole way through there. And I think that's probably the key section of the track.
Yeah. So do you race that round? Was it how different was the track when you raced?
I raced the European Cup there and the World Cup there, and that bit was sort of more or less the same. They kind of changed it a little bit through that top bit there, but it used to be trees, and they've just cut it all in, and just over the years the roots have come out more and more, and it seems now that it's exceptionally hard to carry speed
Yeah.
through there. Like you sort of would have, I don't know if you probably remember last year at Wells, but there's basically everyone just sat there puzzling. Like Reece Wilson had that line where he gapped in over the stump, and there's quite a few big crashes and stuff there. But
you'd see a clip of Reece making it look like it was really doable. And Bruni comes through and just
big
has a
crash.
and you're like, oh, it must be
really hard.
Yeah. Yeah, and even videos from yesterday, it was carnage again.
Yeah.
It looks like a hectic section. And if you do crash, then
that's your race done.
And there's stumps everywhere.
Yeah.
Big stumps everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, we've had the time. What do you reckon from the time qualifying? Because Amori finishing first, and then was it Thibaut second? Who else? But there was quite big gaps back to each rider as well.
Like 3, 7.
I think it was over 10 seconds between the top 10, wasn't it?
So do you reckon that would have just been that section?
It's hard to say really, isn't it? I mean, it looks like that top section is chopped up a bit as well in the open A. There's some big ruts up there where you go off the off camber out the start gate.
Yeah, straight out the start gate. You've got 3 ruts to choose from on that off camber. Plus.
I reckon it looks like a pretty wicked track.
It looks really good.
Yeah. Considering like a few years ago it'd get to Leogang and you're like, not this bike park again, but it looks awesome, I think.
Yeah, and I think Eddie sort of touched on it on the podcast you did with him, is like it's actually a really good hill. It's just the fact that basically with the ownership of the land through there, you can't basically use the best line on the hill. It's not that it's a flat hill, it's just you're limited to what you can do there. But I think the motorway is it's fun enough, but it's just probably relatively boring, I guess. But
to watch, it's all the same to watch.
Yeah, but above that and below that, I think it's really good. And where they've left now and put that new steep section in there looks awesome.
We just need a bloody dry race.
Yeah.
It's pretty good to see people battle that, but if the roots just weren't so deep, because it seems to just like jam everyone up and kill the speed a bit.
Yeah, I saw one had a story like as you're coming off the motorway, and there's basically a pretty flat right hand turn. There must be probably 4 or 5 ruts, and it looks just like a motocross track.
Yeah, it looks sick when it's like that.
Yeah, it looks really good.
As long as there's like each one has advantages to it, because that's what's cool. If there's one obvious line, then it's everyone's going to take it. But when there's 4 options and all of them have like benefits depending on what you're looking for as a rider, I think it's pretty cool to see what people opt for then.
Yeah, and I think that stuff's pretty hard in a race as well, because it's like especially at a World Cup, like it just changes so much over from over the whole weekend, but also just even over a race day,
Yeah.
like from say like the top qualifier and elite to when they do their last practice run to their race run, like they could come in and that rut will be completely gone, so like there's definitely a.
And I think that's a good thing about it being wet, because those roots wouldn't form in the dry. Everyone would probably take a different line, but you wouldn't be able to tell because they'd just be skimming across a relatively flat corner. They'd just rail on outside and come in. So I think it's quite cool that in the wet that you do get those lines. You get more defined line forming, I guess, and you have to make, because you can't, once you're in your line, you just got to stick with it really. You can't really change out.
Yeah, for sure.
We were talking before pink bike fantasy teams as well. Me and Kurt have ours. Have you made one yet?
No, I haven't got one. I've actually never.
You got to do it
Do you
now
want to get your
before
phone out
college
now?
starts.
Never on the fantasy train.
Well, have you got your phone?
Yeah, I
got
do.
a pink bike account?
Qualifying is
All
like
right, you can make
hours,
yours now. We can talk
and then
about
it cuts off. I'm pretty confident with my one, I reckon.
Who you got?
Reece Wilson.
Why Reece?
Obvious reasons. It's raining in Leo Gang again, and he smoked everyone last year. And the confidence on Reece last year at that race, it stemmed through the whole entire week, and he's got to be confident coming into this one too. I mean,
he took it to the next round as well, winning qualifying.
Yeah, exactly. He's going to be coming into it just the same, and we might not have seen it in time quali, but we haven't seen. In time training, and then qualifying's coming up today, so it's going to be pretty interesting to see. And like all his content recently has been hooking.
You've known Reece for a while, because you before Pivot, you were mechanicking for Eddie on Bergamont as well.
Yeah.
And then Reece was probably one of Eddie's. I don't know. Was Reece a junior, or was he just first year elite?
Reece might have been like second year elite. I can't remember if it was first or second year elite. But yeah, we
signed him quite young though.
Signed him quite young. We pulled him out to New Zealand for a team camp at the start of the year when the boys had the Fernhill mansion, and Eddie built Reece like a loft for his bedroom, like just chucked a little platform up above the lounge and put a bed up there for Reece for a month or so, and that kind of set the tone for the season. He was really cool to travel with. He was a good teammate, and he let his hair down a little bit that season, and kind of just. I think he said it himself, he just wanted to have fun racing his bike, and he knew that this crowd that he was surrounding himself with do it that way. And it was one of those seasons where he might not have got some results that he wanted, but he had like a top 10 at Fort William, I think, on the Bergamont, which was unreal. And then went into the next season with like motivation to take himself to the next level, got himself onto the Commensal team and got on the podium. But like, one of those things for me and for Eddie as well, like seeing Reece killing it, you just like remember what we've done with him, where he's come from.
Yeah.
When he won Worlds last year, it's like I was just as stoked for it if Eddie had won it.
Yeah.
It was
Eddie seems to have a bit of an eye for the talent because he got Jack Moyer on the Bergamont as well.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're going a bit off topic from your fantasy league, but just to go, something that
he's got that touch. Like we've had Cole Lucas in previous years.
Charlie Murray.
Cole wasn't on our team, but we like guide him through, and Eddie helped him out getting him hookups, and Charlie Murray last season, and
Casey Brown as well, way back.
Yeah, Casey Brown.
I'm sure
back,
she
yeah.
was had a bit of a reputation, but
First right in the team.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, it was Casey Brown was on
Original.
Bergamont's
Yeah,
team
Casey,
when it was a
Jack
bit
and
more
Eddie.
derelict
Yeah.
as well.
And now like Eddie recommended Sammy Gale to Bernard, and from what I'm gathering, Bernard's stoked theirs to have Sam around. And then I know Eddie's going to be keeping an eye on Brad Harris this season and making sure he can help him as much as he can. And Tahodu,
He's going to be good to watch, I think.
He's Eddie's plugging Tahodu everywhere he can as well, putting his name out there. So he's just got the eye for it, and when it's a Kiwi too, it gives you a bit more motivation. Back to my fantasy team, we got Reece Wilson, and then of course I've got Eddie. Eddie in the mud is, if he stays on his bike, he's going to do mean.
Yeah, it's key.
Bigger
And like last year at Worlds, he was like, it was looking like he was having a really good week. And I guess it comes down to the race realm again was completely different to practice. It was peanut butter instead of a mud track that you could rail. But Eddie got Sam Gale because he was pretty cheap, and I've got confidence that he can take his momentum from the way he's been riding in New Zealand.
Well, he's beat some big names over here.
Exactly, man,
in
and the confidence he'll be gaining through being there with the factory team, and they're all stoked as having round two and to be guiding them through. So confidence in our sport is massive. They're all good riders. If you got the confidence, you're going to be going well. And then I threw Andreas Kolben there, being an Austrian rider on a pro team, on a big factory team, the Everton team. Can't help to think that he could be a bit of a dark horse. I guess I was looking at my leftover monies, and then I saw that I could afford him being Austrian.
Sorry to sidetrack you again. I love the Atherton bikes.
They're cool, man.
Have you had a good close-up look when you've been in the pits?
I haven't had a good close-up look in the pits because I can't remember if they were riding them. They must have been riding them the last season I was there.
Yeah, that was the first year.
Yeah. But I didn't really go have a good proper look. But they run a DW link, aren't they? DW link.
Yeah.
And just more refined now. I think Andreas is on a mullet setup too. I like the whole theory around if you order one of those bikes, you can get your own. You can tell them your geometry. You want this reach and this change.
I guess being a mechanic, you love that. I'm just like, give me G, whatever G's running. I'll trust that because that's what I do at the moment. I just buy bikes and they're designed by the guys that race them. So I don't know who designed. I'm running Commensal at the moment. Who put those angles together? Probably is
for material.
So I'll trust it. Just give me those. The guys, the professionals know more than me. So whatever bikes get sent to you by the time you're buying them from the bike shop are pretty good.
He does have a very unique style though, eh? I think he's got quite unique sort of sticks his ass out,
Yeah. He's a bit of a powerhouse, I guess. So he's probably.
I remember. I think when Wynn and Brooke got on the GT,
they weren't fun. Brooke wasn't. He was quite
initially, and
verbally
that was
a
something that G it worked really well for him,
Yeah, G had pretty good success on it. Obviously didn't work for Bulldog, and now he's killing it again on the Mondraker.
Yeah.
Each bike suits everyone, but I don't know. I'm pretty flexible with what I ride this, and I just trust if it's getting given to me from their R&D, then it's going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
But I'll also buy a bike which I know is going to work pretty well. I won't buy a brand I don't really know. I'll buy one that's proven, one that's doing well on the World Cup scene, whether that's a placebo because I'm seeing people do well on it. I don't know, but that I've always been pretty happy with the bikes that I've bought because they're doing well in the World Cup. But yeah, Atherton bikes, I'll be keen to try one. So Ben Lovell, when you're bloody next over here, bring us a couple of testers. That'd be awesome. Next on your fantasy league.
First off, I'm just going to crack one of New Zealand's finest beers, the Double Brown.
Oh, that's a good crack.
So moving into the females on my fantasy team, Valley Hole, for obvious reasons, home track, and one of the top female riders last year. She broke herself, so we couldn't see what she could do in the mud there. But confident she'll at least be in the top 3. You know.
Do you reckon she'll also win the overall this year? Because she obviously was out from.
It's pretty
World
open,
Champs
Like
and
that. Monica Hrusnik is flying. Marine Cabarrou is forced to be reckoned with. She's pinned, and then Valley Hole's, she's yet to show what she's capable of.
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious what she's capable of. But I think there's a lot of competition in women's racing at the moment. It's pretty cool. There's like 5 girls that are all in striking range of each other.
Yeah, that's good.
There's not one that's like far beyond, and
Do you reckon when Rachel was winning all the time Rachel was insane, don't get me wrong, but do you reckon it was more the fact that before the girls even raced her that they were already beaten? They were just racing for second, or do you reckon that's unfair to say? I feel like everyone was just like, Rachel's going to win, who's going to get second?
I feel like there was a period of time where Rachel was smoking everyone, that she was a veteran of the sport and had so much experience, and all the riders she was racing were new to the sport and were slowly building themselves and coming up.
That's fair enough.
And quite a lot of those girls that you've seen, like, Pom Pom, and then Tani's of age now, but she was quite young when she was racing.
Yeah,
Rachel.
But
there was not a big field of top girls, and the other girls she was racing were building and getting better. And now they are good. Now they're really good riders. I'm not saying if Rachel was to come in that on form like she used to be, if they would be as good as her. I don't know.
No,
you will never know, because it's such a different time and bikes and tracks and everything. But
I think she pushed the girls to the next level, and then because what did you get? What, she won 14 races in a row?
Yeah.
Was it something? It was like she won. Had a perfect seat. It was insane.
Yeah.
And it's like she was obviously quicker, and you saw obviously not the same domination, but it's a similar thing with Gwyn, where for a couple of seasons there it was like, all right, Gwyn's going to win this unless something goes wrong.
Yeah. Who's
going to get second? But then he ended people started to beat more and more. Whereas with Rachel, nobody ended up. Well, she did just get a perfect season. Whereas with Gwyn, you always thought it was possible to beat him. Whereas with Rach, nobody ever beat her.
Nah.
And then by that second season, or even she maybe had like 2 perfect seasons, and then coming into whenever she did get beat, did she crash? Was that what ended it?
I can't even
Was it a crash or a mechanical? I might be wrong.
I can't remember.
Happy for people to give a shit if I'm wrong.
But even she was still crash and win races though,
True,
yeah.
So I don't know. My thing looking at like Tani, I remember was getting really close, and I think that was when people were like, oh shit, like Rachel can get beaten. But I think apart from that, Rachel was insane, like so fast, and people weren't even comparing themselves to Rachel to the point where they just let her do her own thing. And yeah, when Tani got close, then that definitely pushed it a bit, and that's maybe what ended up making Rach crash, was that maybe the pressure, and that was, oh man, eventually you are going to crash, I guess, too. But
it's pretty hard to sustain, like just constantly winning, really. Even if you're like above and beyond better than everyone else, it's still pretty impressive to sustain that, because like there's just so many variables in a race that can cause you, like even just not having a mechanical.
That's testament to the mechanic as well, I guess.
Well, and I think also her as a rider, like, I mean, even just up with flat tyres and stuff,
smooth
line selection and being smooth and not blowing up a wheel or whatever. It's pretty impressive.
It was, yeah. I'll be excited to see when she returns how she goes, because
is she gonna come back? Do you reckon?
I'd hope so. I think I don't know. Like the Athens are insane, aren't they? Let's be honest. Like they live for it. So I'd hope that having a kid only almost spurs her on to go.
Yeah, a bit of motivation.
Yeah. I would love to see Rachel come back after that and see how she goes. But yeah, I think it's good to give the girls, I don't know, get them that experience without Rachel being there. So when she comes back, I think, like you said, that was almost maybe what gave her the confidence, was that experience she had over everyone.
Yeah.
And nobody could, you can't, that just takes time, obviously. So it'll be cool to see this almost changing of the guard, I guess. And I'm excited to see what happens in the women's category over the next couple of years, for sure, in terms of their like abilities and times, and their riding styles are changing quite a lot. I think that's a big thing. Like I feel like women had quite a distinct riding style, whereas that's definitely changing now. You look at Jess Blewett and
Yeah, she's
Or, like-
guy,
yeah.
well, I don't
Yeah.
know. She's got her own style. Like she
Yeah.
looks like Jess. You
Yeah.
put and then you look at like what Kate, all this like the free ride sort of movements coming in and I think helping them all
yeah,
quite a lot.
yeah,
So I'm excited to see what happens there. But
I think Jess is going to make a pretty good name for herself this season. Like starting her season with a free ride event, so people have seen this name associated with this free ride event, and her and Vinny had the most gangster styles out of all the girls that were there. And then this week they're going to see her name again on a World Cup results sheet.
Yeah,
It's going to be like,
hopefully on the top
like
step.
and I don't know if she's planning to do any EWSs, but it wouldn't surprise me if she swings a leg of that too. And it's like going to be, she's going to have her own movement where she just starts like popping up all over the place.
General
and,
Jess.
Yeah.
Have you seen General Snipes? General Snipes?
yeah.
She's the Snipes of the MTB world.
Yeah.
No, that's sick.
But yeah, pretty much. One more
And
on
then
my
finally on your
fantasy
fantasy.
team. So talking about movement in the females category, Michaela Patton. Is that how you say that?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Michaela Patton.
Scottish chick.
Parton.
Had a pretty mean result end of last season. Is on I think it's like the Trek development team. It's like another Trek sponsored team. It's Trek Stram. But yeah, I guess for the money I left over and the conditions of the race, being a Scottish chick and it's raining, makes a bit of sense. And that finished off my fantasy league. So yeah, come on team.
Go on. All right. Well, that's Kurt's team. This is going to be the winning team for the weekend. So I went Bernie Kerr. I was just listening to what Eddie was saying, and Eddie seemed to put a pretty hot word in for Bernie.
Yeah.
And after just seeing, like we said, he's got a pretty good eye for things. So I trust.
I'm not sure how he's feeling after his Vital World crash, but that was a hugie.
Yeah, it was a pretty biggie.
That was
but
a top of chute over bars, land at bottom of chute. It looked pretty, didn't look good.
I haven't seen that. Where did
it's like the first. It just coming into the woods. I guess.
That wood section where you can get high,
the split line.
and
really?
wash the front on the log of the drop and went over the bars
And end up down low.
down low, but going over the bars all the way down.
The drop off the high line, you mean? Or
Yeah. Is that if you watch the Vital Raw, then
It's the opening
it's
clip.
like the opening clip. Yeah. But no, I think Bernie's hinted to maybe rolling in the downhill stuff over the next couple of years, or if not this being his last season. So I think, and this is possibly one of the places he's had his closest win.
Yeah, mate.
So I think he'll be charging for it, and I'd like to see it. I'd like to see Bernie do it. So I'm rooting for him. He's on my team. Joe Braden,
Yep.
coming out at the Notta race, got the fastest time that next day, and he was a good price, so he's in there.
Yeah.
Thibault Aprilia, he was second in time training.
Yeah.
Also, just seems like an angry Frenchman. So
Did really well last year.
yeah,
I done mean last year. Yeah. He's on the same level as like what Loic has been, Loris has been, Finn has been, like those kind of junior riders that step into elite and immediately are on the top 5.
Yeah.
That's what happened with him last year. Like just boom, welcome to the elite category. I'm here.
yeah.
I think he probably almost actually had one of the better transitions out of all those guys in a long time.
Mm.
Really?
Yeah.
True.
Well, even his junior years were pretty.
Consistent, like a consistent
outstanding.
transition.
I
Not
was
just a
surprised.
bit of
Because junior he won a lot, but he also would have some huge.
Yeah, I heard he had a few tantrums as well.
Oh yeah, if he didn't win, he was not happy. He
Yeah.
towards the end.
Like,
for sure.
I'm not into that, and he's sort. Well, actually, it's just good to see somebody being pretty passionate, but there's time and place, I guess.
I think you just see that a little bit more from the Euros, though. They're just a bit more passionate about like that. They're not afraid to show their emotions at the end of a run,
But
which probably maybe you wouldn't see from Kiwi Rolls or whatever. But
Kiwi riders and mumbling under their breath.
yeah.
you see Brooke at the end of a
Shakes
shitty
his
race
head
run,
and
just
bails,
like
yeah, it's pretty funny.
the old Euro's pretty passionate. But
Yeah.
I'll put him. Yeah, he seems to have come through pretty hot from
Really
juniors,
well,
so I
yeah.
reckon he'll be even more. And he's on that new Commensal as well, which pretty cool looking bike. What do you guys reckon from a mechanic's point of view? Nightmare bike. I noticed the back end as well has got like a funny little joiner. It's actually been covered.
They call it a virtual high pivot, which I don't know what that's meant to understand. I I've just looked at a photo. I haven't tried to understand it too much. I
Yeah.
reckon it looks like a pretty naughty looking rig. Looks pretty mean. Yeah, anything that Commensal makes, we've got to the point in our lives that a Commensal downhill bike is going to be good. Why would they change their last bike that was like,
Pretty.
hands down, anyone that was riding those bikes in the World Cup was having their best results.
Yeah.
Why would they change it to something unless they were pretty confident it was going to be better and more refined? But yeah, I'm yet to have a bit of a better look at it. But immediately, bikes released, first time session of the season, first and second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sort of, and that reminded me actually when I saw that this morning a little bit of when Santa Cruz brought out the 29 V10
Yeah, same
at
thing.
Lords, and they all just went. I think it was first,
Everyone
second,
started
fifth or
freaking
something.
out.
Yeah.
That gap between Lords and Fort William, which was a month,
Yeah.
was
Panic.
and at the end of the day, we just panicked ourselves for no reason because we tried to make the Bergamont happen with a 29er. And I reckon this was all part of the game for them too. Like, they knew they'd develop this bike and they had it dialed, but they knew no one else was ready for it.
Yeah.
And everyone was going to freak out if they won the race.
Yeah.
And we did, and a lot of other people did. And we rolled up to Fort William with a 29er that was not possible. Not the best. We didn't have the good enough wheels for our sponsors because they didn't make downhill specific 29-inch rims, and the bike would basically just like slap 29ers in there. And we went back to 27s for the rest of the season and rode it absolutely fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was crazy. Rocked up to Lords, they won qualifying, they won race. Oh no, they didn't win the race because it pissed rain, didn't it?
Yeah.
But they won the race that kind of counted.
Yeah.
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 It was always funny to see races like that where the rain plays such a factor. But Luke is back on a mullet now anyway for that. Sounds like just arse clearance.
Yeah.
And there's no third Santa Cruz ride at the moment.
No.
Yeah, so it's just the two of them at the moment.
Yeah.
So Greg but from what I understand, it seems to just be the taller rider goes for the 29er back end and the shorter rider goes for the smaller, more for the arse clearance.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I've rode full 29ers, I feel like I don't like it because to get the back end sliding, I have to push it so much harder.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I rode, it was actually Jess's trail bike, so it was about 2 sizes too small, but that was mullet setup and it was pretty cool because you could push the front end into things and it would grip, like hook up, and then the back end would just follow it round.
Yeah.
You just kind of would point and shoot, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it would be quite nimble, whereas I find on a full 29 of the back end, I don't know, I couldn't get it to turn the tighter corners.
I can ride a full 29er trail bike, sweet as. Wouldn't even notice anything bad about it. Only good things, but downhill bike, yeah, I think I'll be struggling with my butt clearance.
Yeah, a bit steeper though.
Yeah.
Well, the tracks you want to ride on a downhill bike. It seems a bit just the steeper it gets and the rougher. That's when you need downhill bike. Trail bikes can handle the more mellow stuff now. Pretty good, pretty aggressive. Especially that Pivot Firebird. Is that what you were riding for a bit, the 29er?
Yeah, I had a Firebird last summer. It's probably the best bike I've ever owned, to be honest, aside from my current e-bike. That thing's just the best thing in the world. But
it looks like a downhill bike with single crown forks in it.
Yeah, the Firebird's nuts. There's nothing I could say wrong about that bike, and it's an EWS winning bike.
Yeah. What is Eddie back on that this year, or is he
Yep.
on the
The Firebird's the daily driver. When he's in New Zealand, he's on his Switchblade, which is a shorter travel 29er. It's a 140 rear travel with a 160 fork, and it's just a bit more of a versatile, training bike because you're punching out so many Ks. But when you get to Europe and your long descents, you just need the more travel. Barely a rig, so Firebird becomes the daily driver. DH tyres. You've got the Float X2 DH shock in it. you've got 38s on the front too, so you're pretty much just like a downhill bike that you can put your seat up and pedal up a hill.
Yeah, it surprises me that when on the mellow tracks that the riders don't choose a long travel trail bike and put on triple crowns and call it good. But because Stevie Smith did that way back for Peter Maritzburg, and Mitch Roppolato as well. He was riding the. What was that? Was it a stunt jumper or was it?
Well, no, I think it was just on an enduro.
Was it just an enduro at the time?
I think, yeah.
Yeah, they did that for that, but then nobody's really done it since. So that
And he
kind
did,
of testament to the tracks. Like we all look at pretty
You
easy,
look at GT though, developing an enduro downhill bike at the moment. So they've got an enduro platform that is also a downhill platform. I think Martin's been testing it majority.
is that what they're running this weekend, or they're just going to
I'm
the
not.
Fury?
I'm not sure if Wynn's on it. I haven't gauged if Wynn's on it, but Martin's definitely on it.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it's like whether it's a 180mm travel rear end,
yeah.
200mm travel fork on it. So and then you can put a single crown on it to be an enduro. But I'm not sure. I've looked too much into it, but all the words that you've seen in press releases, spottings of it is saying it's an enduro downhill bike. It's a both, and I feel like Norco's got one as well. I feel like Norco's been developing.
Yeah, well,
so the
well.
new range is kind of, well...
Yeah, but I feel like I saw a press release about it the last few days. What they're riding is also...
Wynn was saying something about
the other bikes, so I don't
Sam
know, yeah.
pedaling around indoor on his downhill bike, so I don't know if they were hinting at something there or what.
Yeah.
It seemed weird that it turned up and didn't have a trail bike to ride, eh?
Yeah.
But,
Who knows? One bike that does it all.
yeah.
Anyway, carrying on with my fantasy. So that's TD. David Trummer,
Yeah, it's a good
Trevor's
bit.
good.
5th in time training, and
It's
I would-
actually a bit of a...
I wouldn't have put him down for a Leogang dude, but he's one of the dudes that I'll just watch in general now, and the fact that he got 5th in time training, I'm just like,
He
alright.
was second at Worlds last year.
Yeah.
Was he?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's Austrian.
Yeah.
He's Austrian.
Well, I
He's
just
like
was-
second at World
I kind
Champs
of
last
everyone after race, I kind of forgot, to be honest, but
year.
David.
He was 3.5 seconds off Reese last World Champs.
Yeah. Well, he's been somebody that I've been watching for a while now, because
Trummer's
he's done a
good.
season in Queenstown as well. So anyone that comes to Queenstown, I'll start watching you. And but he's been doing pretty sick. So
Yeah.
yeah, in 5th. So I reckon he could be on for a good one. Austrian, probably trains her a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went, and then for the women, I went the same as Yuka, Michaela Parton, and Valley Hall for pretty much the same reasons. And then, yeah, who knows? I might change them come to the next round, but I'll probably change the whole team for the next round. But I reckon we're going to see me on the top of the fantasy league next week. So Connor, you can tell us your team, but it's probably not going to be as good as mine.
I actually got a few similar riders same riders as both you guys actually. So I've gone for Tebow. Pretty much we've just covered why we think he's good. Joe Breeden as well. I know Joe relatively well. I reckon he's a good bugger, and I think he's pretty methodical. He works real hard, and I like his approach to racing, and I think also he's on the new bike this year with the NS. That Polygon team switched to NS, and
Those bikes look pretty dialed up.
yeah, they look really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a bit I was pretty surprised at that, but it sounds like the polygons weren't all that. Because it looked like
man.
when they first got the polygons, Mick and Tracy went pretty good, and then
Oh, those
At the
last
time.
ones that came out, I don't know about you guys, but
Pretty
every time
ugly.
I looked at them, I almost
Yeah.
fucking... What?
Yeah.
They
Imagine being
terrible.
a rider and you had to walk into the pits every day and look at that, and you got to go and ride it. I'm sorry. But the
I'd put
reality
it
is
up there as one of the
you
worst.
need to froth what you're riding, eh? Like, you need to
Yeah.
be stoked as on your bike. And majority of the bikes that are out there, when they're at World Cup spec, they're mean, they're gangster. But that thing, I don't think you could ever make it look good. And I've worked on one in the bike shop.
They're terrible, aren't
And
they?
it was disgusting to work on from a mechanic's point of view.
Because they
I
don't have
wouldn't-
any
I
Allen
wouldn't
key
enjoy.
joints.
I wouldn't enjoy my job having to work on it either. So the whole environment would have been a little bit off the bike. So now they got a bike that looks good and the geometry looks great, and I reckon the whole team will be, more stoked to be getting involved on that bike. So
Yeah, I'm not really 100% sure, but I think it's kind of was more or less a case of Polygon. That they wanted to move on and do something else, and NS was sort of where they ended up, as opposed to Couscous changing to.
Yeah, I wonder if they had many
Maybe.
options for that, because I always see Couscous
Well-
through the season up here changing. Oh, be anything tires to
These guys
always different component. Every single time I see him,
yeah.
he'd have a different component on his
Yeah.
bike, and I'd
Yeah.
say, "Is this new?" And
Yeah.
he'd always just say, "Just testing."
Yeah,
And then about 5 different brands later, they'd then stick with
Yeah.
one brand. I tell you what, the brakes that they use, what the Trickmaster brakes,
Oh,
Yeah,
I
that's-
reckon
Trick
they.
stuff,
If I could have
yeah.
a Trick stuff,
If you could get,
If I could get some of them,
Yeah.
good luck.
they would seem to be the best component. I
Yeah.
think they've got
They're
those
backordered
back
for like years.
Yeah.
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 I just see that. I think they're getting a bigger factory.
Yeah, I think
expanding,
that
but-
was a big thing about the delays. They were
Yeah.
expanding, moving factories, so
Yeah.
there was a big, stop of production. But yeah, you pay at the price, obviously. But they've apparently, I don't know. I've only ever pulled a lever, and they felt quite nice.
Well, that's pretty much all I've done too, but they felt
Yeah.
pretty bloody good.
Yeah. I think
No.
the Eftons are on them as well. I think.
Yeah.
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 So I'll trust whatever G says. I'll trust.
Yeah.
He's done it for a long
Big
time.
fan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Joe Redden, who's
Yeah,
next?
you got Braden and Colby as well. He lives just down the road in Schlabing, so pretty local. And I'm actually really I was pretty sort of a little bit surprised actually to see him end up on the Efton deal. Not so much because he didn't deserve it, but just like they're all obviously they got pretty much a full British team.
Yeah.
They got
I can't remember his
Charlie
name.
Hidden.
Charlie Hatton.
Charlie,
Yeah.
Charlie G, Rachel, and
Millie.
Well,
Millie as well.
Millie's Norwegian, eh?
yeah, Norwegian. So you got like I guess that's sort of Rachel, the development
Yeah.
riders through Rachel. But I think he's sort of been on the fringes of getting on a good team for quite a while, and I feel like he could probably actually beat all of them. Like I feel like he's got the potential to be the best rider on the team, to be honest. So yeah, I'm quite excited to see how he performs. And then we've got Max Hardenstone as well.
Where's he from?
He's German rider. He's on the Cube team with Danny Hart, and he's been on the Cube team for years. I guess they probably want to keep him along because he's a really good rider.
Well, he's German champ.
And he's
He
German,
wins
yeah,
He wins the
so-
German champs every year. Cube's a German brand.
Yeah,
So yeah, it makes a lot of sense for them to keep him on.
yeah. And he did pretty good last year, and he had, I think he was top 10 time training today as well.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I heard Danny say in like one of his it was on the Not a Race
Yeah,
Not a Raw,
watch out for
and
him.
they had an
Mm.
interview before the rise, and like, who do you think we watch out for the World Cup this year? And Danny's like, my teammate Max, been
Yeah.
riding with him the last couple of weeks. He's hooking.
Yeah,
Watch out for him.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I think he's got a good chance of probably mixing up with the top 10. I remember the first time I saw him actually was at a German Cup race in 2016. He was still a junior rider for Specialized and just locally in Germany, and just was pretty impressed with him then, and just could see like he's a really good rider, and sort of have basically just sort of kept an eye on him since.
Yeah.
So now he's kind of, I guess once you've done a couple of years in the league, you look for a rider to see if they're going to take it to the next level or sort of stay on a sort of that sort of top 20, top 30, or if they can jump in and be a consistent top 10 guy. So
Yeah.
I guess that's kind of the time now, eh? And for girls, I got Vera Woodman. I used to mechanic for her. and
Yeah,
I
you
think-
worked with her a bit.
yeah, new team this year on Saracen, and
So you've gone from, well, not Danny, but a Cube, where Danny's gone,
yeah,
and she's now gone to Saracen.
Yeah.
What do you think of the Danny Saracen Cube deal? And you guys got any insights on that? Anyone?
I kind of tried to do a little bit of digging with that and ask them sort of what went on there, and I'm not really too sure. I think it sounds like they're potentially maybe a little bit unhappy with Danny, and basically they were paying a lot of money, and I think over the COVID period wanted to see a bit more from him than he put out in terms of content and
In terms of
whatnot.
media.
But that's just through the grapevine.
What do you think about that? Because if that was me, I'm not really much of a media, like social media sort of person. And if I was Danny, my results do the talking.
I think so as well.
Like
yeah.
you're not paying me to, you've never paid me to post like a bullshit. Do you know what? I think we need a new page called the Clout Police. Because I see so many bullshit posts
Yeah.
that are so boring.
Yeah.
And it's like, if I was Danny, no, I'm not going to start doing I'm not going to do a stupid post just to
For the sake of it, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it's nitpicking. Yeah, it's his job.
And
but
if you know Danny or you've you've met Danny before, when you meet him in person, he's like, you can stand in front of him, get along with him really well. He's got an easy to get along with personality. Nothing awkward about him. Anything that he does on the media, he seems a little bit awkward.
Yeah, I've known Danny for a long time.
And it's like one of those things where some people just they aren't cut out for the social media, or they aren't cut out for that kind of stuff. And yeah, fair enough.
I think it's not only that. Like some people, I'll get to a situation and it's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And I'll go home and I'll be like, man, that was a good time. And that's just good enough. Where some people have a sick situation, they'll get the phone out, they'll film it, and then they'll post it on social.
Yeah.
And I think Danny's just similar to that. He's riding his bike. He's not riding his bike for anyone else but himself. So his head's not to be like, oh, I should get my phone out and film myself riding.
Yeah. Because
he's just there to ride his bike. And all right, I understand. Yeah, if somebody's paying you to do something and they say you need to post, we're paying you a lot of money to post to keep us in the limelight. But at the same time, he was never. They knew up until that point that's not his deal. The second you get him back between the tapes, he's going to make your bike go fast as.
Yeah.
So,
I think he didn't do like overly great last year, but I thought it was pretty weird like how that whole thing went down. I guess there must have been pretty more going on behind the scenes with Saracen, but like they put out that it seemed like a rush post before the Maribor World Cup, and they said that Danny was leaving. So I kind of feel like that potentially could have created a bit of animosity in the pits, and like I know that it was kind of like a surprise. I don't know if it got rushed through, but like Harry and Bronny, they who are on the team now, they didn't actually know that press release was happening.
Oh yeah.
So like then they had like all their sponsors from that year that they hadn't said, oh, we're moving on to this new team.
Oh, really?
So like Madison just put it through.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a bit of a weird one there.
Yeah.
And with the Win TV and stuff like this, sort of interviewed Danny, interviewed Will when it was all a bit strange. But I mean, you never know what goes on behind the scenes, do you? And I guess with Danny, like I think a similar sort of thing happened with Mondraker as well. Like he did his 3 years, and I think it was probably, he had on his second year, like he had that really good year where he won a heap of races in 2016, and then I think in 2017, like it was a bit of bad blood, and then he left to move on to Madison. So it's always interesting to see what happens behind the scenes. You probably don't. You never really know for sure, and who said what and who's pissed off about what. But
no, what I know about Danny is he's pretty black and white.
He is very black and white.
He's pretty black and white, and like Kurt said, you see him face to face, and he's a bloody good bloke.
Absolutely, yeah.
But still, he's not. He's not going to just talk some shit. What he says he means, and if he doesn't say it, he's not hiding anything from it. He is upfront, and I can see, like, obviously there's lots of people that don't like people with that, because sometimes being blunt with someone can come across as being rude or being like a bit arsey. But Danny's not. He'd never do. His mum's real nice. His dad's a bit more of a hard case, but Danny's kind of the in between. Is that he knows his position within mountain biking is quite influential.
Yeah,
but he'd never do anything to upset anyone.
No.
And if he says something, it's not to be nasty. That's just what he thinks, and that's how it is. And normally, when you actually think about what he's saying, it's pretty accurate. But yeah, he loves.
He's very. I think, and he's just very focused. Like he's just in his own wee thing. Like I don't know if he's still doing it, but he definitely used to just have his camper set up at races, and so he can basically have the. He's
done that for his whole
home, pretty much.
Yeah, he's done it his whole time. He's got his creature comfort. So it's like everyone, So everyone's kind of got almost the race ritual, and for Danny, that's it. If he can get his camper there, that's his thing to get him in the frame of mind to go racing. Because that's what he's always done.
Yeah.
But no, I'm excited to see how his cube transition goes, because nobody who Phil Atwell was on those bikes. Didn't really do too
Phil got a podium
much.
at the end of last year, didn't he?
Huh?
Phil got a podium at the end of last year.
Did he? Yeah.
on the cube, and
So Phil goes pretty good on.
Yeah, he's done well. Well, I guess he got the podium on propane as well
But,
prior to that, and then
But it's a
back on
relatively
propane now.
unproven
But-
bike, I guess.
Cube. Yeah. I
So-
guess, well, what was it? Phil and Max, and then
before
Walker.
that, you had
pardon?
Walker, you had Greg
Yeah.
Williamson on them. So
And,
they've had some good riders.
Greg had a
Jason
pretty
VJ
mean
as well.
season on it one year. Eh?
Yeah.
Like I remember he was getting some pretty consistent top 10.
Yeah. There was
Like he
news
ma-
with him and Walker when they started it, sort of.
yeah. I remember Greg was like in the top 10 pretty.
So I saw George
consistently.
Brannigan in the bike park riding the cube before that year.
Oh,
And I think that was
yeah.
before
He was
they,
trying it out,
and I remember he was
yeah.
trying it, so and then he ended up getting the commensal deal. I think.
Yeah.
I think it was.
Yeah.
Oh,
So then I was,
the
yeah,
contrast between that first cube that George would have tried and then Matt ended up being on the pro team. The contrast of that bike to the one now. Oh my god.
you look at it, it looks so good
Wow.
now. I
Yeah.
think it looks like a wicked bike. All the lines look
Yeah.
dope.
Yeah.
They refined it really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a bit of a tangent. Back to your fantasy league.
It's always good to go on a tangent, though, isn't it? But so I reckon Vero, I'm pretty excited to see how she goes. I think she's a real good rider. And last year she crashed at Worlds and ended up going to hospital after, I think it was in like qualifying that she crashed. But the last World Cup snowshoe in 2019, she was third. So I felt like that whole year she sort of was building. So yeah, I think with the support and a pretty good setup this year, that I think she's definitely got potential to win a World Cup for sure. And then finally I got Emily Siegenthaler off pivot as well. I think she's good. She's just consistent.
Yeah, she's
Right.
got the experience as well.
Yeah,
She's been
she's-
on the scene for quite a while now.
She's always just
Yeah.
there or thereabouts.
She's healthy this year too.
Yeah.
Last couple of seasons she's had her knee and she had that knee injury and it's been a little bit to come back from that. So I feel like this year she'll be pretty confident with her health and everything. So go on, Emmy.
Yeah. So that's my team.
That's your team. So just sticking with women, Camille Blanche, current world champion.
Yeah.
What do you reckon? Like neither of us had her on our team.
No.
But do you guys know? Well, she's looked good. I saw on the bit of the vital, and she was looking fast.
And she's going to be consistent too, I think.
Yeah.
I think, last season we saw the world champs win, and then confidence meant she was riding really well for the end of the season. But this is going to be the first season that she comes into with the confidence, and the race is at the same conditions that she got her world champs jersey. And if she gets a decent enough result this week, I might not get the win, but if she's in the top 5, and that's going to be the confidence, that'll mean she holds that confidence to be consistent.
Yeah.
And her and Emily ride together full time, so she's learned a lot from Emily.
Yeah. So she won on this track last year, though.
Yeah,
She wasn't on the time training sheet from what I saw.
I've watched Cammy come up from when her and Emily first met. Would have been when I first met those two. I think it was quite early in their relationship together. And Cammy had come from EWS and was starting to do World Cup, so she was a full-blown privateer. She was hanging out at our pits quite a lot.
Yeah.
Wasn't on a pro team, doing her own thing. And she was quite a wee way back from Emily, and then over that whole season creeped up, and then her and Emily were at a pretty similar pace, and now Cammy's starting to pull up front a bit. She's carrying her momentum and she's going on, so it'll be a season that really defines her career, I think, if she can prove that she has the consistency to be at the top.
Yeah.
Got it for sure. Like I said earlier in our Talkin Turkey, confidence is a massive factor in our sport. And she's got the rainbow jersey on. I don't know how much more confidence you can get. It's like if you're running the rainbow jersey far out, there's confidence levels oblivion. Yeah.
And our other female, what you got?
I was going to say that when she won last year, actually, it reminded me of Morgan Shah as well, she's still on your guys' team, eh?
Yep.
Yeah, and she won Worlds League in 2012, and it was sort of like a surprise win.
Yeah,
Same
I'd say
sort of
it's a
thing.
surprise.
And the next year she kind of was good, but didn't manage to back that sort of that world championship winning run back it up again.
Yeah. Sometimes it seems to be like quite a weight with the World Champs jersey.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like when Danny won it back in Champery, he ended up getting injured, I think, the next year, but definitely didn't have the best year following that World Championship.
Yeah.
Well, I think he still had a few podiums, but he definitely didn't quite back up the World Championship status.
Mm.
And then, like you say, with Morgan Shah, kind of had the jersey but didn't really shine a whole lot for it.
So, I think it's just kind of cool. I mean, I used to have it actually probably a few times with the girls as well. So I think it's probably Miranda Miller probably did a similar thing after she won in Cairns, was sort of like.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be pretty cool to see Cammy actually, back it up and do well. And as Kurt said, she is actually.
She's got a good style.
She's been slowly improving. And I think to put like a consistent run down like she did last year at Wells, like she just stayed on the bike and put a smooth run through that steep section.
Yeah.
So, there's no doubt that she's really talented.
No, it's going to be exciting to see. And Cabarrou as well. Overall World Cup winner from last year, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Keep me so, and none of us had her in our team, but I definitely would be somebody. I think I might have run out of money. Well, I could have been Valley Hole, but
I would have gone Marine any other track, but just being Leo Gang, Valley's local, that kind of made sense for this race. But the beauty of the fantasy team is that we can change it for the next one, and I probably will get Marine.
I think I'll have her on a round for sure. Yeah.
For the rest of the season, to be honest, because like I said earlier, Valley's still yet to prove what she's capable of, whereas we know what Marine is capable of, and she knows what she's capable of. She's not trying to prove something. She just, she's got it. Whereas Valley's probably like a season off being that consistent.
Yeah.
That consistent top dog.
Well, that last year was her first elite year. Was that right? Like senior?
Marine.
No, Valley.
Yeah.
She'd been in juniors, so that last year was going to be her first senior year.
Yeah.
And then she obviously crashed and never got the chance to see it through. Whereas Marine
won qualifying and
then crashed. Yeah. So, and we could see it when she's in juniors. She had the potential to be really good, but then I guess, like everyone crashes and that's it. But you just never know how that's going to bounce back. Some people come back from injury pretty strong. Some people take a couple of years to get back to form.
Yeah.
Even if they're amazing, then. Yeah. It's something to see.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be an interesting season. I kind of feel like probably Marine's probably going to be pretty hard to beat in terms of the overall. If she stays healthy and she's a very good rider.
Yeah, I think for women overall, it'd probably have to be between Marine Cabarrou, Valley Hall, and Tani Seagraves.
Yeah.
Would you? You've always got Nina in there as well. She's had some she's had race wins. But I don't know if I'd quite put her down for a full season.
Yeah, I guess it depends. I mean, she's sort of built every year. She's another rider that's kind of started a little bit later on and improved pretty rapidly.
Yeah.
So it's hard. I guess hard to know. Like you have to be to put a full season together and win the overall. I guess generally takes quite a lot of experience to do that, but.
Yeah, this is why I think the women's category is going to be actually quite exciting to watch, because for a long time it's either been two riders that are potentially going to win.
Yeah.
Now, for me, there's those three with a couple of outsiders, and then maybe this could be the year where we actually see there's 10 riders that are all well capable of the win.
Yeah, I'd say it's pretty cool to do, yeah.
Whereas when you come to the men's, like, who do you choose? You've probably got 20 riders you could list that could... There's obviously some that are more likely to.
Yeah.
But, well, for me, the ones that are the three that are likely to do it are all French. It's Amaury Pirion, Loic Bruni, or Lois Vergier at this point in time. Yeah. But you've got Reece Wilson, Laurie Greenland as well.
Mm-hmm.
He was out last year.
Yeah.
He could definitely win the overall. Danny Hart. Like... Greg Minard could. Yeah. I don't know if he's got an overall in, but he's definitely got some race wins.
He definitely does.
You reckon he's got an overall in?
Yeah.
I'd love to see him. Get an overall.
We've currently got an overall World Cup champion by the name of Matt Walker from Great Britain.
Who,
it's kind of funny. Flies under the radar a bit in terms of chat still. He's the World Cup overall champion, but you're still hearing about Loris and Loic and Amori. But we're forgetting that like Matt Walker did win the World Cup overall and he didn't just win it for no reason. Like far out. He's going to come in hot.
He's got a good riding style. I think a few people said it as well. When you watch him, he's got probably a pretty solid, like similar to like in the base that they've got. They never look out of shape.
Yeah, planted.
Like pretty solid foundation to build speed off. His riding style.
Yeah, super consistent. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Danny, like as in he's not, doesn't have a big social presence, but he's just like a real true racer. Gets his training done, good racecraft, and he's there to try and win races basically, and that's his goal.
Yeah.
I think he's probably actually pretty good chance to repeat last year.
He
again,
could back it up.
Yeah, for sure.
I was just mentioned Laurie as well. That's somebody I'd like to talk about. You obviously, Laurie's come and stayed with you when he's been living over here, but that was 2 years ago now.
It was 2018. Yep.
So 2.5 years or whatever.
Yeah.
So you know Laurie quite well. And Kurt, obviously, you know him from.
Yeah, I know him pretty bloody well. When he was living at Connors, and here in Arrowtown, I was working at Alta, which is the Mondraker shop, and the Mondraker distributor for New Zealand, and I'd obviously met Laurie on the World Cup. So he would come in from Connors every day, come to the shop, chat shit. If I had time, I'd go riding with him. And we hang out a lot overseas as well.
So what do you reckon and then coming from the British racing background, I've seen him for years.
Yeah.
Initially racing, he's come up through juvenile, but he kind of got my attention when he was racing youth category.
Yeah.
And then he got picked up by Trek when he went to junior, and now he's Mondraker. But he, I don't know. For me, he could possibly be somebody that I'd put my money on being an overall winner for this year.
Yeah.
He got the hand injury last year.
Yeah. Yeah, and I saw an interview with Sven as well just yesterday. He was saying that last year he reckoned Laurie was looking faster than Reese at Worlds.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's pretty much good chance again for this weekend, I reckon, for him.
It's funny that he says that about Leogang. So this is, how you used to have that thing where everyone would say this is a big riders track. Things like Fort William, Mont St. Anne were the tracks, and people were like, yeah, this is one that suits a big rider.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you had people like Danny and Troy winning it, who were obviously quite a bit shorter.
Yeah.
But I think, and then Laurie, what did Laurie win? Val di Sole.
Yeah.
Val di Sole. So I think there's still a bit of truth in that, and I would put when it gets a bit steeper, I think that's when you're going to see your smaller riders like Laurie doing well, because you're not pedaling, you're not trying to carry your speed. What you have to do is try and scrub your speed as fast as possible.
Yeah.
And on a steep track, if you're Laurie and you weigh under 80 kilograms,
next to nothing.
You can brake so much later into not so much, but it's a fraction of a second. But obviously, from what we've seen, fraction of a second is what wins the race.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So Laurie has got the talent, like all the top riders, but he's got the ability, due to his weight, to brake a millisecond later than Greg Minnaar into a turn, and then that's if they hit the turn at the same speed, and then he can hit the turn, and when he exits it, he then, is a bit lighter, so he might have to put a pedal in. But if it's a steep track, that weight's just going to go. Whereas on a track like Leogang, when he comes into a corner, he has to just try not to brake at all, because when he comes out and it's a flatter exit, he doesn't have that weight behind him to
carry the momentum.
Do you think there's anything to that, or do you reckon I'm talking shit?
No, I think that's probably you bang on there, actually. I remember actually in one of the old Earths, I think it was in Champery, Nathan Rennie saying the same thing, like when that was 07, the first year they had Champery, and it was the original racetrack there, and he was like, it's hard for me, like I'm a big fella, and it's hard to slow down. But I kind of feel like the sport has definitely evolved to a certain extent, that I think your smaller rider will probably work on being good in the sections that they can be good, and the bigger riders working on where they're good, and it kind of maybe balances out to a certain extent. So like somewhere in League Gang, maybe if you can carry a bit more speed onto that motorway.
Well, Reese isn't the tallest guy ever.
Yeah, exactly.
Reese isn't the biggest guy, and he won last year.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I think League Gang's kind of like the in between track. Like it's not as steep, but it's not like a brake burner.
Yeah.
Whereas say somewhere like Val Sol is.
Yeah.
And I guess you're probably going back to your point, like someone like Greg. You know, he's been good there, but just not quite that next level to win.
Yeah.
I don't know. Has Greg ever won Val Sol? I don't know if he has.
No, I don't think so.
Spring to mind
No.
immediately, eh?
But I know, like G has. G's tall.
Yeah.
Yeah, G's pretty big.
So, yeah.
And Gwynny's a bit of a... Yeah, G won World Champs there.
Oh, yeah, true.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, yep. No, that's true. Yeah. I guess it's, it just goes both ways. And
At the end of the day, it's like it's whoever doesn't break the most.
Yeah.
It's like whoever can just like... But we're talking now with these guys, it's fractions of a second.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think, you can bring in the body weight to it. Another thing I heard, like Fort William, let's say that's a bigger rider's track because it's not terribly steep, but you have to carry your speed.
Yeah.
But one thing Danny's dad once said was Danny's good because it's Fort William's renowned for being quite windy at the top, and Danny being a smaller rider doesn't get affected by the wind like what, say, Greg Minar or somebody like Nathan Rennie would.
Yeah.
Which also is...
Yeah.
So they might not carry the momentum down a straight out of a turn just due to the weight, but they also don't get hit by wind. But that's a track with no trees. So if you've got a track with trees, then the wind doesn't play a factor. But that's another thing. There's all these little elements to it, and you can see why people wear the bloody tight shirts.
Yeah.
What do you reckon? Do you think the shirts are becoming too tight? Kurt, you would have probably done some shirt mods for Eddie.
Yeah, with there was a couple of seasons ago where our Bergamot shirts were super baggy, so he'd done some home jobby stitching and sewing, tying the shirts up, and he might have made one of his shirts a little bit too tight.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely been creeping more towards the tighter race kit side of things, but I think it's a balance of more of like they're probably not thinking about it being faster in terms of aerodynamic. Tighter fit clothing actually, from experience as well, I reckon it makes me ride better because you can feel the way your body's working when you got like the tight kit to your skin. You can feel the way your arms moving, your legs are moving, and I reckon it's more in that direction. It's a comfier way to ride. All the riding wear is getting more tech as well. You're getting your stretchier materials and more breathable materials, and then it's just natural that it becomes a bit tighter. But yeah, definitely don't need to bring back the skin suits. That's for sure. The riders still look pretty gangster with the moto looking kits.
Yeah,
it has got a little bit skin tight.
Yeah, well, I feel like a few guys got called out for how tight their trousers. I think Loris Verger was definitely one that got. Oh, he was getting pretty see-through. It was almost like his pants were painted on, but they seem pretty good. I don't know. I don't think you can really regulate it either, but I don't know if it makes that much of a difference at the end of the day. I think it's more, like you say, in your head and how you feel.
Indeed. And, I don't know, fashion, man. Fashion.
Fashion, man. It's a real thing.
Indeed.
But... So that's Leah Gang. And then on from that...
We're talking about these riders, but hats off to the mechanics this week. It's pissing rain. And when it comes down to it on a race weekend, it's pissing rain. It's those boys, girls that have to sort out the muddy bikes far out. Definitely not missing that part.
Yeah, so this is something I was also keen to talk about. So I hate watching them, but I love tracks when it's not very technical because of the tweaks that the riders have to make, the mechanics have to make to the bikes in terms of tyres, even sidewalls, to try and just get every little inch out of the speed.
But
of the bike.
how sick is it when riders put up full muds? Like today, they've gone full spikes. You don't see that very often, and when that does happen, it's just like,
So yeah,
full
and
muds.
I love that, but I also love seeing what the mechanics do to try and reduce where the mud gets in the bike. So how was
Today we've seen.
How was it
those
for
3D
you when you turned up and you could just hear the rain beating off your ceiling in the morning? You're like, all right, shit, I've got to do this to Eddie's bike.
For me, like, I reckon that it's only in the last season that I was working with Eddie, and if I was to go do it again, that I'll be more tuning into little bits like that I've been developing as a mechanic over every season. That you kind of rock up to a race and you deal with shit as it gets thrown at you.
Yeah.
You know, and I've always looked around the pits to see what other people are doing, and so does Eddie. Eddie would come down and be like, you know, so and so's got this kind of mud guard going on. We'll try something like that.
Who's the Don? Who's the Don mechanic? When you go into the pits and
Jason
you're like,
Marsh.
Jason Marsh, the Don. Would you say he's the Marsh?
Probably, yeah. He's
Marshy.
pretty, he's pretty...
Being a Kiwi too.
ingenuitive, eh?
Being a Kiwi as well, and from day one of me being on the World Cup circuit with Eddie and the team, Marshy has been someone that we go to for things. Anything. Marshy's lived in France for how long? He's he knows how Europe operates, and he knows how to make things happen in all kinds of areas. But Marshy's one of the Dons.
I think Marshy, for me, I don't know him very well. I've met him a couple of times, but I think he's 50-50. And what I mean by that is like 50% of the time he's actually saying exactly what he knows, and it's true, it works, it's proven. I reckon over 50, it probably could even be 40-60, if not more, like 40 being the bit that he actually knows. And I reckon there's so much to him, and he's just giving it a go. His Kiwi ingenuity. He's got
this sense of humour that, like, it takes you so long to figure it out, and it took me so long. I was so intimidated by Marshy for a long time. Like, I'm talking probably a couple of seasons that I was intimidated by Marshy, because sometimes I'd talk to him and I'd really get what he was talking about. I'd get what he's joking about, and then other times, like, I just don't know what was going on. I couldn't figure him out, and it's like dry sense of humour, or like his kind of like different kind of sense of humour with his Kiwi ingenuity and his quirkiness, his own quirkiness. But yeah, now that I've got to know him pretty well, I can sit down, smoke a ciggy with him after the race and have a good yarn.
Yeah.
Like it's
No, I think it's good, but
sort.
I mean that 50. I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad thing, this over 50%, but I think he's just trying something else out, and he's partly convinced because like he's been around the pits a long time. He knows what's going on. He's not a dumb dude. He's like a pretty smart dude. But he's giving it a red hot crack, and if it works, it'll work. Like Eddie's story, where he says Marshy obviously mechanic last for him last year when you were stuck here with COVID, but Marshy mechanic for him, changed all his settings. Eddie jumped on his bike, said, something's wrong, man, but my bike's wrong. And Marshy goes, you passed the test.
Yeah.
If Eddie had jumped on his bike, gone out and had the best ride of his life, would Marshy have just gone, yeah, your settings were fucking shit?
I reckon he would have said nothing.
You reckon he would have said nothing? You
don't
think he would have...
If he had gone out on a heater, and like, you know, and I don't know what the circumstances would have been to know that if it was a heater, if he'd come down and been like, bro, this bike is nuts, what have you done? Or if it was a time run and you'd seen this unbelievable time, I reckon Marshy would have just like sat back and let it roll. He would have obviously noted like what he'd done and knew what he was sitting on, but just let it roll.
But it's a win-win, really.
Yeah.
It's like, well, unless Eddie came back and was like, without sitting on his bike, and if Eddie was like, this is the shittest bike ever, but who knows?
He
He
obviously put them way out to a point that they could never have been good.
I feel like it must have been.
Thank fuck that Eddie found the feeling.
Opened it all up or closed it all down or whatever. Yeah.
No, I like that. I think it's pretty funny, and I think the fact that Eddie figured it out kind of probably says it all. Maybe that's where.
Yeah.
You know, Marshy knew the whole time it was just going to work out.
And, I reckon Marshy's the Don on the World Cup scene.
Nigel,
who's he mechanic for?
He was Stevie's mechanic, and now he's Mark Wallace's mechanic.
Yeah. Oh, he's gone to he's Fox Tech now.
Is he Fox?
Oh,
Fox technician.
Fox suspension.
Yeah.
Oh, true.
Yeah.
So you got Geordie as well on the Fox Tech. You You
Right.
run the Fox on the pivots,
Yep.
and then
Yep.
what were you? Were you Sharam?
No,
you
we
Fox
were
as well?
Fox. Yeah.
Yeah. So both of
Geordie's cruisy. Yeah.
you guys work with Geordie.
I reckon, like, Eddie's definitely got a really good relationship with Geordie, so that makes things quite smooth when you rock up to a tent and your rider's got a good
Yeah.
relationship with the techs in there, eh?
How do you feel for Geordie being a guy that works for one guy, and then you look at Geordie who works with every top athlete
that'd be a pretty flat out operation that they've got going on, eh? And now that I'm involved with suspension.
Yeah, so
now that I'm-
you're sorry to give it more into Kurt. So Kurt, you now work for a suspension tuning company.
I've taken another year off the World Cup scene to basically charge on with my new job, which is I'm working at a suspension centre called CJ Suspension, and I've been a bike mechanic for 15 years ish, and I've always only known how to service lowers or very basic suspension servicing, nothing too comprehensive, nothing to do with tuning. I could do a couple of dampeners, I could do a couple of variations of shocks, but nothing to a comprehensive level. So what I'm learning right now is really open my eyes to those guys in the Fox tents and the RockShox tents and the workload that they get given on a race weekend. I find it really hard how they can give the same effort or time to each individual rider. And this is when I start to think like far out, like what could be possible with these riders too, because the Pivot was the first team that I experienced a factory contract with a suspension sponsor. So the first time as a mechanic I could take the suspension off a bike, take it over to the tent, Fox in this instant, give them the suspension and walk away.
So
and
I think
come back 2 hours later and the suspension's ready.
when I came to Europe, you were still on Bergamont,
Yeah,
and
I
you
was
were running the
servicing-
Manitous
I
at
was
the time.
servicing-
Yeah, and you had this
me
pair
and
of
Tom-
forks.
Me and Tom Lois would do a Noki rebuild at the start of the race week and service the Dorados ourselves.
How many times would you have to rebuild those forks?
Just once a race.
Just once?
Once a race, I'd do them fresh service every race. Those forks were sick, man. I've still got the Manitou Dorados on my current downhill bike and don't want to get rid of them. Like the way I know how to service them, I make them feel better than they come out of the box. But then,
So that's what I heard
they're
about
unreal.
Dorados.
Yeah,
This is what every person that has them says. Dorados are the best fork I ever owned when they're working.
yeah. And they
How
are.
often,
And they, no,
like-
but they're easy to make work. To make work, you just need to know a few little things.
Yeah.
And
Like
it is only like a
World Cup
couple.
mechanic.
No, it's only a couple little things that, like, when I first started on the Bergamont team, we had a really cool suspension tech from Germany called Jerome, who reached out to Eddie, and he came along to Leogang and just like showed me the ins and outs of the Dorado. He was almost like a Manitou Dorado like super fan,
Yeah.
and he owned a suspension center, and his favorite fork was the Dorado.
I like the look of them. I think
Yeah,
the
they're sick.
upside down
The moto
forks look
forks.
so cool.
But he showed us the ins and outs, and from that day on, me and Tom serviced the forks every race, and we knew where to make them. We knew where to put the nice oil and the nice grease to make them feel super buttery. And we had other teams around us that were on the Manitou Dorados, and they were coming to us like asking us like, "What the hell are you doing? We're watching your bikes in the Vital Raw, and they are working completely different to our bikes." And they thought we had put a RockShox charger dampener in there or something else in there, and we're like, it's a stock damper. We just got them running mint, and Eddie and Rupert were confident on those forks and thought they were good too, and they were getting good results. But that was it. I was on this team on Bergamont, servicing the forks every race weekend, and then come to Pivot, the luxury of taking the suspension off and taking it to Fox and coming back a couple of hours later, and they were ready to go. But what I'm learning right now with the whole suspension game is like there's actually so much more time that can be put into this suspension with the rider, which this factory deal with Fox still isn't providing because they've got such a massive workload. Like Geordie's servicing fucking 40 forks a day or something. I don't know what they're doing, but they can't take Eddie aside, pull down the shim stack and build something to his preference or the track. So like right now, me learning this stuff, this is what I've told Eddie and Bernard and the team is like, I feel like I should stick behind knuckle down with this job with CJ and like what I want to learn and what I'm going to learn over the next year. Like this knowledge is going to be an asset to the team next year because we can now go to Fox to get the basic servicing, but I can pull the shock apart and I can build a shim stack with a tune that is going to be, you know, the kind of time that these guys at Fox can't offer us. We've spent the last few years running what they say is the way to run it.
Yeah.
And that's their opinion, whereas I'm hopefully going to build my own opinion. And if it is the same as them, then cool. But I might find something that I think works better. So
well, that was going to be my question. So, like I say, Geordie has to deal with all these athletes, and he's probably got his more high-profile ones like Greg Manar, Aaron Gwynn,
and
whoever else.
We don't know. Those guys might get the special treatment where they have, you know, a broken down shim stack to their preference, and some obviously they do all this testing with Fox in the off season as well. So they've probably got that. But then there's this massive big handful of teams and riders who are on a factory deal. But I've never seen the shim stack of Eddie's shop. We just take it to Fox, they service it, and then we run the tune.
Yeah.
And Eddie's a good set and forget guy, so he can go to Geordie and be like, well, what's a base tune that most people are running, and then he'll build off that. He'll change his rebound a little bit and his air pressures and his tokens. But yeah, I'm pretty excited.
So you're going back?
Yeah, that's the plan. I'm pretty keen to go back next year. The only few factors this year for not going. One being, COVID still is a little bit uncertainty. You know, we're in this country where everything's tickety-boo, humming along. I could get to Europe and next week it all blows up and these races get cancelled and then you want to come home, but our managed isolation in New Zealand is booked out 2 months in advance, so I'm stuck there for months until I can get a managed isolation quarantine. So that was a little bit of uncertainty that I wasn't keen on. Plus, I just started this job with CJ. He was really cool at the start of it. He said, well, if you're going to Europe, that's sweet, man. Like, just do a couple of months with me now and then come back next summer and we'll crack on. But after the first few weeks of me starting this job, I realised if I was to leave for Europe for 6 months and come back after only working with CJ for a month or two, I'm going to come back and not remember anything that I've learned, because that's the way your brain works. Like, I'm just not going overseas and kicking back and fixing a bike. Like, I'm having 6 months of heavy experiences. And I'm not going to remember of all kinds of nature. Maybe not quite the same nature as what we could do in the past. COVID might have restricted a few of the shenanigans we used to be able to do. But yeah, that was my theory. I kind of got stuck in with CJ, so gave Eddie and Bernard a heads up. Eddie told me that, you know, if he was in my boots, he'd be doing the same thing. It makes a lot of sense. So we went that way. But keen as next year, and that's what I reckon. I'm hopefully going to have a whole lot of new knowledge that can asset the team. And
I think staying behind is going to be beneficial for everyone with the knowledge you'll learn.
Yeah, and just I've lived in Queenstown for 7 years and never been able to build a proper setup because I leave every 6 months. Whereas right now I've just got a house.
Well, what happens if you return next year as Pookie's suspension tuning, and you're not just looking? You're looking. No, you know all the dark arts of suspension.
Yeah.
You're looking in the shim stacks of all the guys that don't get Geordie's full attention, and now
that's it. But,
now
we can start with the boys' shocks. My theory, my plan is to hopefully have like 2 or 3 different shocks for Eddie's bike that have a different tune in them, so we can rock up to a track and be like, all right, we'll try this one. Or you can have something like that going on, and then if it's a successful thing, and then we want to support these junior riders that come from New Zealand, we'll start pulling their shocks apart, and I don't know, the world could be my oyster with those ideas.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, some cool things that CJ does. CJ does a travel vacuum pump. So basically he's got this set up from a company called WSS Suspension, Wayne, and it's a vacuum bleeding pump for suspension that all you need is an air compressor and a power port to run.
Yeah.
So our team truck is an air compressor and obviously a power port, and there I can have our vacuum bleeder for the suspension dampeners. So that's something that I can take with me next season too, which will make all that happen.
How big is it?
No, not big. It's literally just kind of like a pump canister. Like,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because Adriani.
Adriani got
pretty significant, right?
Yeah, so they're your proper pumps that we've got in the workshop, and what we've got here, it's a lot more manual. The one that CJ has is like I guess it's probably not marketed as a travel one, but it's a lot more travel friendly.
Yeah.
But it's probably something more suited for small bike shops.
Yeah.
For somebody that knows what he's doing. Yeah, the Andriani one, you literally just hook it up, press a button, start, go.
It does it.
And it does all the processes, the filling, the emptying, the pressurising, all that stuff. It does on its own, whereas this one that CJ has, you'd be manually switching the switches and the dials to make those bits happen. So
yeah, and that seems like it's the sort of thing that would turn up on a pallet, whereas if this one you can actually fit it in your luggage, and it's pretty convenient.
How did you find the transition, Connor, from you started as a racer? You're on the what do they call it? The Mondraker B team?
Mondraker B team,
The P team?
Yeah.
Bit of a camp, I heard that one was.
Oh, it's an interesting experience for sure, yeah. But it was basically like, I think they've kind of essentially merged it now. Like you see this year,
Toby Meek is a guy, a local guy that's headed over.
And Yuki Kashima and Thibaut Laley, I think, are the three riders they got this year, which I guess your main factory team on Mondrake at the moment is Brooke, Eleanor Farina and Laurie. So they've always kind of seemed to have had like this little wee sort of feeder team, but basically, I mean, it was me, Matt Lorden, Fabian Ulrich and Pascal Engel. They're both two Austrian guys, and like we still had to pay. Like I think we paid quite a bit. Like we paid for our bikes, and we basically just paid for our accommodation and food for the season. And me and Matt sort of went over together and stayed in Schladming and spent the whole 2016 season in Schladming. Obviously, we still travelled to all the races and then we did 4 World Cups and 4 European Cup series and German Cup or 2, and just whatever races were going on basically, and I guess kind of probably spending similar money to what you would if you were going over and doing your own privateer effort, but have a bit of support at the races basically. Yeah.
I think the development teams are good.
I think it's
it may cost you the same financially for what you physically get, but I think what you get for in terms of the contacts through
just meeting
suspension
people.
or whether it's even SRAM or Shimano, you get to meet a lot more guys because you got that initial introduction through the team, which is quite good.
Yeah.
But you went from that. How many were you on that just for the season? Yeah,
I was just on it for the season, and like I could have gone back the next year, but basically like I just stopped racing after that. I hit my head a few years prior actually, and pretty much from that point on, I just had heaps of issues with it.
Was it a concussion?
It was a concussion. I had a real bad concussion. Like it
but that took you up for a long time, didn't it?
Yeah. It was a good couple of months actually, and then just basically ever since then now I've anytime I hit my head, like it's just more sensitive, and I'll basically get those concussion symptoms from a pretty insignificant knock. But it took me a long time to figure it out, and I think a lot of people are pretty like medically the knowledge is not, and the research is.
Do you think people still? This was a few years ago. You got your concussion, and
it was 2014.
And still kind of suffering with the smaller crashes. But do you think people have enough knowledge of that still, or no?
No, I think. Well, I guess probably for people to have ongoing symptoms is probably pretty rare. But and day to day I'm fine. But it's just if I hit my head, I'm just not as resilient as I would have been prior to that. But I think probably a lot of people are pretty casual about it, but it's I've found someone now in Invercargill who specialises in that stuff, and she's basically has said to me that if you have ongoing symptoms from a concussion basically beyond 6 weeks, it's generally your neck or your vestibular system. So for me it's my neck, and it's just I presume what's probably happened is in that one where I had a bad crash, it screwed my neck, and it's basically your neck stabilises your head, so if you have a crash, those muscles in your neck aren't working properly, and the old brain gets slopped around a bit more. But I raced in 2016, and I sort of I sort of struggled quite a lot that season with headaches and just feeling shit. Like I spent just a lot of time in bed and with really bad headaches and just nausea and it was kind of, I got to the end of that season and I was like, well, if it's still a problem for me after the New Zealand summer, I'll knock it on the head and I was pretty good all summer and then I just had one at the end of the season and it was like a nothing crash and it screwed me up for quite a while and I was kind of just over feeling shitty. Like it was, racing's awesome, but it's kind of like you can ride to, you know, your sort of 90% level and still have fun and probably not crash as often, or you're pushing your limits trying to race and the crashes probably happen a bit more often. So it was kind of like the quality of life decision.
Yeah.
So I basically had, in 2017 I made the decision not to go over and race because I was fully intending to, and I went out and bought myself a PlayStation. I was like pretty devastated and I was like, I don't know what I was going to do for the winter. I would just sit down and play PlayStation all winter, you know. And then I was just scrolling through Facebook.
You got the mechanic?
Yeah, I saw Steph Garlicki, South African fella that I've met the year before.
What team was that? Was he on a team or was he a privateer?
He was privateering, but he put up a thing saying that he was looking for a mechanic. I was like, oh shit, I'll go do that. So he was riding for Solid Bikes, which is a German brand, but we had a really good season actually. Like he I didn't get paid, and I paid for most of my flight over there, and he more or less covered my expenses when I was there. But he Solid gave him a van, and he was like got bikes and stuff through them, and Investec, which is like a South African bank, that he got quite a lot of financial support through them, and we had a real good season. It was pretty cool actually, because
so what's he on now?
He's
he
riding
still
for Scott.
racing?
He's
So
riding for
Scott now.
Yeah, in Germany, Germany. But yeah, he's had a pretty tough few years. He actually, because I'm a mechanic for him and another South African guy, Nico Velasco, and well, he's Spanish really actually, but in 2018, and Steph like dislocated his hip at a race, and then the next year actually in League Gang, so like recovered from that, and the next year in League Gang he did the same thing to the other one. Yeah, broke, dislocated, like just made a mess of it. So he's two hips in 2 years, in 1 year basically. So he's basically had a pretty long road back really. And then from that you got to you're a mechanic for a few years after that, 3 years. So yeah, I did the year with Steph and then year with him and Nico, and then the next year was with InSync. Was that a deal that Harry Malloy put together? Yeah, that's what Harry put together. Yeah. It was a pretty strange setup actually. So basically they were all on YTs. Yeah. But they just got them wrapped and covered and branded up as InSync. And InSync was I don't even know if they still exist, to be honest, but it was owned by Hero, which is an Indian company, and like a huge company in India. They do I think they do like just basically a heap of cheap bikes in India, but they also do like mopeds that you kind of see in those a lot of the Asian countries. That we mopeds, and they'd started InSync in the UK, and the aim was to be basically a high-end brand in the European market, and that was Harry actually met them through like doing street velodrome. Like, have you seen those real small, small tight? Yeah, I know those ones. Tracks, yeah. And basically proposed to them that deal, and we had like a good bit of budget in 2019 for that, and it was actually like the guy that was basically in charge of InSync was pretty into it, and he was keen to put a big team together, and basically had a 4 or 5 year plan to make it one of the, like a proper big team like you see with Specialized and Common Style and stuff. And you guys were almost like a marketing exercise for them. Basically, yeah. And he was keen as on it. Like, they came to Fort William and they were frothing on the whole thing. And then basically, long story short, at the end of 2019, he had an argument over the phone with the big boss in India, and he sacked him over the phone, and that was the whole deal done. Yeah. So like, Harry and Veroni, like, they didn't get paid for the rest of the season.
Fuck.
Like, they lost money on it, and since it was like late, like November, December, like they had no deal sorted out, and it basically all went to shit. But it was sort of one of those things that had the potential to be pretty awesome, and it was a cool year that we had, but yeah, unfortunately, all fell apart.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then since then I haven't. Well, same as Kurt, we're just a group of New Zealand mechanics that are stranded.
We've been stuck here. But then from that, Vero's gone on to good things, I guess. With that team.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah.
Don.
And Harry's tagged into that Saracen
Yeah.
thing too. Eh?
Yeah.
Talks,
So-
well, Harry was with Cyrus and Marathon like a
Originally,
few years.
when they first started.
When it was the first sort of team.
Yeah.
So it's quite cool to see him back
Yeah,
there.
really cool. And I think.
And then she's back there. Well, she's followed him and.
They both got 2-year deals, and I think because Harry's like a writer / assistant manager, so from what it sounds like I think they're going to try and transition him into like a full management role at some point. But pretty much similar to Kurt as well with me. Like she, they wanted me to go over and mechanic for her and Harry again, and
Chuck a piss.
I decided same sort of thing. Like it's just better to stay in New Zealand at the moment,
Indeed.
I reckon.
So it's just a niggly time to travel, really. It's kind of New Zealand's so good. I think I don't know if you chat to many guys in Europe, but like I don't think people realise how good we've got it here.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Well, it's just we can be so confident with what we want to do with our lives at the moment that we're going to be able to make it happen and carry on. I feel like anywhere else in the world, you've got the uncertainty of like, all right, if I start doing this, well, in a month's time, I might have to put it on hold.
Yeah, exactly.
Because for some reason, and like one of the parts was when I mentioned it to Bernard, he's like, yeah, man, but if it all turns to crap, like you can be over here and be getting paid to just do nothing and ride your bike. But I'm like, well, I'm at a point in my life when I want to be progressing.
You want to actually achieve something, right?
I want to be progressing,
Yeah,
and
same.
alright, I might be getting paid to do nothing, but realistically, I'm going to be spending all that money I'm getting paid by trying to find things to do.
Yeah.
And with all the spare time that I've got, so the confidence of being back in New Zealand right now and just like progressing with things, and building. So when like the world might be back to somewhat of normality, I can take it on better than I ever have before. And far out, after 5 years of World Cup travelling, it's quite nice to sit back and get a bit of a setup here.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
And we were chatting about it actually over text a while ago, like after because you were doing a bit of arborist work over the winter, and I took over your position after you went back to the bike shop, and we were sort of chatting about that and saying how you sort of take for granted summer in New Zealand, go over to Europe, do your season there, back to New Zealand. It's just like I almost feel like it's kind of like almost like a washing machine cycle, and you just get so used to it.
Oh shit, yeah. Yeah, so
and then when it gets taken away,
big thing for me that last season that I was over in Europe, and even it was something that was quite close to me, like right up until COVID hit and the start of last season. I was taking a lot of shit for granted. I've done it so many times now, and like so many years in a row. The final season that I was with the team in 2019, I was going to these places I've been to before. I've been there every year for the past 5 years, and I was finding myself like not riding as much.
You just get over it.
And like I was almost over it. Like it was almost too normal that like I was taking a lot of it for granted, and a little bit towards the end of the 2019 season, I noticed these things about myself that I wasn't riding as much, and I wasn't like getting to these places and just like wanting to get out there and go looking.
Yeah.
Because I'd seen it all before.
Yeah.
And then the start of last season, before COVID had kicked off, we went to Rotorua, and I was feeling a little bit like, I'm going to head overseas and just going to go do it because it's the thing that I do.
Yeah.
The season's approaching and want to go, but I didn't think too much of it. Having a girlfriend and a job in Queenstown that I was really enjoying at the time too. Bikeaholic had re-sparked my drive in the bike industry in New Zealand. I was loving it.
Yeah.
All with things too that were making me feel this way. And then COVID hit. Boom. And I'm sitting at home for a whole month thinking about like how much I wish that I was travelling overseas right now working on a World Cup team.
Yeah.
And it threw me right back to reality and made me realise how much I love it. And this is what it's doing right now too. It's my choice to sit back this year, but it's just making me more keen to do it again. I think I needed it. It's blessing in disguise, this COVID thing. It's so shit, such a hassle and such a big, it's wreaked havoc around the world and done so many bad things. But I feel like it's changed a lot of people's perspective on things too, which has been beneficial in some areas. For me personally.
Well, hopefully
maybe
we're on the back side of it now. Looks like a lot with the vaccine now being rolled out. Looks like a lot of places are all starting to open up, and I think that's all it is. As long as the health of people is staying healthy and people can get back to normal.
Yeah, and for sure. And it looks like chatting to Vero about leaguing at the moment. It sounds like it's I don't know if you've chatted to Eddie at all, Kurt, but it sounds like it's sort of similar-ish to last year. Like it's still got all the COVID tests and stuff, but from the footage I've seen, it kind of seems like it's maybe a little bit more laid back. And obviously they got some spectators this year.
After last year, they would have figured out the way the operations need to work, and they just have it all flawless. They would have learned from last year how it needs to happen and all the things that need to be put in place, and this year it'll just be working like an operation that's made to work.
Yeah.
I'm confident the whole season will happen under the restrictions.
Yeah.
It'll be a little bit more normal for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, going back to Kurt, I've been wanting to talk to you for a while because the good thing with Eddie is he's always got so many stories, and we've hit an hour and a half. To wrap things up, I'd like to hear an Eddie Masters Bergamot day story back when you were roughing it, if you can think of one.
Far out, man. I feel like Eddie's told this story in a podcast somewhere before, but basically, people ask me stories about on tour. One always springs to mind, and it was like, man, the first season I was on Bergamot, Eddie was so good at not making it obvious or aware to us that how much of a shoestring budget he was on managing this team. He was really well. He done really well at budgeting himself with the budget that he had, and also putting into consideration this first season I was on Bergamot.
So for people that don't know, Eddie was managing.
He was managing and racing, managing himself and.
How many riders did you have?
Himself and 3 other riders. It was Eddie, Rupert, Max was our junior, and Casey Brown, and me, the mechanic, and then we had Tom Lois hanging out with us about half the season. So I was doing sometimes 4 bikes, sometimes 2 bikes if Tom was around. But anyways, that kind of thing on a really shoestring budget. And the next stitch up of that season was, before I even got to Europe, Eddie had flown over earlier to pick up a new team van, and he'd teed up this Mercedes Sprinter. So the budget at the start of the season was pretty nice. It made sense. It was going to work. He'd obviously pitched a budget to the sponsors about all the things that he wanted to do with money, and one of them was to buy a van. So he had this money for the van, and he found a really good deal on a Mercedes Sprinter in the UK, and it was it's a die for deal. He was like, you got to be, this is awesome. I'm going to buy this. And the seller was talking to him through email, and they came to an agreed price, and it was on eBay. And the seller had sent Eddie, it was all through PayPal, and Eddie had got the email for the safe account for PayPal. So a safe account is where Eddie sends the money into PayPal, and until both parties say transaction is accepted, as in Eddie's picked up the van and the seller's sold the van, they're happy with everything, then the money goes through to the person. But it happens when both people kind of click yes. So Eddie's under the impression that this guy's all good, the van's at a mean price. It was like £5,000 for a Mercedes Sprinter or something like that, and £5,500. And the guy was emailing him right up to the point that Eddie had got on his flight from New Zealand to London, and he told the guy cool, I'm on my flight. I'm going to arrive in London at this time on this day.
Yeah. The
guy's like, cool, I'll meet you at the airport. Eddie gets on the flight, all good. He gets to the other side, he messages the guy, and his email starts bouncing back, and his money's gone.
You kidding? And
it was a full-blown scam. This guy had sent Eddie an email from www.paypal3 or something, some email account that looked similar, so it wasn't. And the safe account wasn't a safe account, it was a personal account. And the guy emailed him right up until he knew that Eddie was going to be on a flight for fucking 30 hours or something, that he had enough time to like backtrace all his shit. So next thing, no van, but he teed up this trailer as well, a team trailer that had awnings and everything. It was from like a go-kart racing team, and that needed to be picked up the next day. So Eddie needed a van, so he just went straight to the car yard and bought this van that we ended up calling Perucha, because I think the story was the radio, the head unit that was in the van that Eddie and Rupert couldn't get to work immediately because it was in Russian or something, and instead of it saying like asking for code, because sometimes you had to put in those codes, it just said Perucha.
Yeah.
So then the van became named Perucha. But anyways, like far out. So that season, you know, he was already on the backbone of $5,500 lost, and he was having to like keep himself afloat by like, he started his season with paying out the salary of each rider and a mechanic.
Yeah.
Boom. So they were just paid. He didn't have to worry about them anymore, or installments, but he had them like planned out. So like at the end of the day, you got to make sure your team's paid, and then you sort your shit out after that. And it was the final race of the season. Val de Sol, I think we'd just come back from Canada as well, so there was a lot of travel involved right before this last race, and he was literally waiting for the last installment from Bergamot for the season, because it was the last race, and it was going to come through on the Monday, and we after the race, and we were at Val de Sol all week, staying in this accommodation, this Airbnb, and it came to the after party. We all got pissed as, woke up on the Sunday morning to hear Eddie outside the apartment beeping Perucha's horn. Hurry up, Kurt, Casey, we're going now. And it's like, whoa, what the hell's going on? Like, it is out, far out. Like, the place is a mess because we've just gone a whole week of Hurricane Bergamot through the apartment.
Yeah.
I'm grabbing my shit as fast as I can, run out to the van, jump in, and then we beeline it back to the pits because we got to pack down our pits. And Eddie just pisses off straight away, and I think he went to go get some Wi-Fi, because turns out he was trying to message some other people from around the pits, like other team managers and owners that had stayed with us at points over the season that owed him money for accommodation that they'd had off us, but they hadn't paid him back yet.
Yeah.
And turns out he couldn't afford to pay our accommodation, and we were needing, like, we were leaving, and the money from Bergamot wasn't going to be through till the next day because it was a Sunday. It was going to be through on the Monday, so he was in a bit of a pickle here. And we packed down the pits, and Eddie still wasn't anywhere to be seen. And me and Tom were still so hungover from the party the night before, so we went to sleep in the van. And I woke up to like this banging on the window, and I put my head up, and there's a Italian police officer and the lady that owns our apartment, and she's come down to the race looking for us. She's found us because, well, our van was a pretty fucking standout piece of shit, so they could find it easy. And the police officer just said, ask for my passport, and I'm like, nah, man, like, you're not even mine. I'm like, I know why you're here, so I just gave them Eddie's. I'm like, not my problem. Like, this isn't anything. This is not my problem. But here's Eddie's passport, and then Eddie comes back, and I think the police officer walked with him all around the pits for him to like find these people that owed him money. Yeah. And while I had to sit there with the owner of this apartment, she's like, oh, I've been to New Zealand before. I think it was such a beautiful country, but this experience has made me think the opposite. I don't like New Zealand anymore. I think New Zealanders and Kiwis are dickheads. So, oh, shit. Oh, it made me feel the worst. But yeah, we tried to do a runner. From the accommodation. And sure enough, like, I think we were literally driving away from the race. We got the money cleared up. We got Eddie's passport back. We got the lady paid, kept the little coach. But I think we drove away from the race, and the money had just gone into the account when we left.
So if you just stayed around.
Shit. But it's just one of them, like, far out. I got a big bank.
Yeah, well,
lots of stories. I was thinking,
go on.
I was thinking before, actually, when we were talking about wet races, the great Fort William pivot catastrophe of 2018.
What was that? Oh,
when the basically they didn't have enough fall on their tents. Bernie's
Fort
new
William.
World Cup setup.
Fort William
And the whole
2018.
tent, the whole awning off the big rig just collapsed.
Really?
Yeah, we'd had the truck for.
That is such.
We'd-
It was pretty
Yeah.
funny, but Bernie was not stoked.
No,
And
that's such a.
basically
fun.
like we just didn't have a
Story.
big enough angle
Yeah.
on the awning. It
Yeah.
was like we were kind of almost on like raised up ground, but we'd only set the truck up once in Croatia and it hadn't pissed rain there, so we didn't know it would build puddles.
It was very sunny.
And then like Fort
Yeah.
Bill was like torrential pissing rain, and then like
Oh, in Scotland?
me-
Really?
me and
pretty rare. But
everyone's gone home for the evening after practice and after qualies, and me and Barney are in the pits on our own, and it's pissing rain, so we're pretty off it, you know. We left at Fort William pits with pissing rain, living in the truck, and the next thing we look up and it's like, oh, it's
Oh,
puddling.
shit.
And it was by the time we noticed it, it was beyond the point of helping it, because it was already starting to cave down. And we tried to push it up. No, that's too heavy. So then we just ran in with a Stanley knife and just slit it open. But it was like, I feel like the moment we slit it was the moment that the awning buckled. Like,
it landed on
So-
Bernie's
yeah.
bike.
So
So you
Fuck the
cut
stand.
you cut the awning
Brand
and
new.
it fell as well.
brand new
Yeah.
awning, like
Yeah.
Bernard had paid for a printed pivot awning, and we had no other thing to do but to try slice it, and we just popped it, and then it still collapsed like the right hand corner, and it collapsed onto Bernard's race bike. Like,
No.
I've got a photo on my phone, and the stands
yeah, the
fuck,
stands folded in half.
Folded in half.
For what, on Bernie's bike?
On Bernie's bike, yeah. It was after quali, eh?
Yeah, after quali, and then on race day we had 2 easy ups.
We were
Next
all
to a
in
big
there.
truck.
I was like yarning to these guys. 'cause
Yeah.
None of my guys were qualified. And
I never heard this story
I,
about the
I was
road.
at Polygon across the road, and then it just went down and went off. And
Bang.
we were all holding it up, trying
Yeah.
to get it off Barney's bike, because Barney was standing
Yeah.
working the bike,
Yeah.
and the whole thing's
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And then bring up Bernie, and Bernie comes in, fucking, what?
Oh,
Yeah,
freak
that
out.
was definitely one of the biggest lows of Pivot Factory racing.
Oh,
So,
well.
no, just because it was our responsibility, you know, and but we didn't know.
But we
Now
didn't.
Now you know.
every single race when it starts raining, we prop up the awning on the bars. We put like helmets or something up there to prop it up a bit more to get
Yeah.
to get more of a water stream off the end, and we tighten the shit out of it. Like we get these ratchet straps on there now and just tighten the fuck out of it. But that was the first experience we had of any puddling, and it was like torrential. So we didn't even have any like thing to build off. It was like, oh shit, that puddle's up, boom. But yeah, thankfully it was Fort William to Leogang, and we had to drive straight there. But we had backup awning supplies at Bernard's house, so his brothers drove up to the Newcastle
Yeah.
ferry to drop off the parts for us, and we were sorted for the rest of the season.
There
And
you go.
from what I'm aware, for the rest of its life, we haven't had any other issues since then. So.
You live and you learn. Well, if you made the mistake twice, there's a problem. But you make a mistake once and learn from it. Drop down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I like to try and keep them at an hour and a half, but we've punched that out. But I reckon I want to have another catch up after the race, and I reckon we may as well just
Yeah, sounds good.
All three of
Maybe
us
get
yarn
a
again
few-
if you're
few
okay.
more, few more stories, eh?
yeah, we got heaps of stories
Plenty
for
of
days.
like those two, yeah.
So yeah, let's see whose fantasy team wins, and catch up after the race.
Smooth lines, roll the speed.
Smooth,
It's
Sweet.
beautiful.
Yeah.
smooth lines, roll the speed, Connor, or you just go.
I haven't got any catchphrases, eh?
You, no catchphrases. All right, ciao.